Hey everybody, welcome back. This is episode 62 of Blacktop Banter. And it's been a minute since we had anybody from the green industry. I really don't like saying that too much anymore, the green industry, but the lawn and landscape industry.
Which green industry?
I know, dude. They changed the name of GIE to Equip, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, oh
right.
yeah, which green industry? Yeah,
Yeah, which
yeah.
green
Yeah,
industry?
there's a couple of them
There's
now.
a couple now.
That's right. So I don't want to introduce this guy. I'm gonna let him introduce himself. Jason, please introduce yourself to the audience, my friend.
I am Jason Thompson. I am a father of two boys, husband of an amazing, incredible woman, and I live here in Kentucky for now. We'll get into more about that later. And I own a lawn and landscape company as well as a food truck company.
Dude, and that's how we met, right? So I
Yep.
tell everybody the story of how I went down to GIE to see how that community was, because I wanted to create that in the asphalt industry. And that's how we met, right?
Yep. At GIE at the pizza shop.
Yep. At GIE at the pizza shop. And then that, like, we didn't really know each other too much. We connected there and connected afterwards because we were in some of the green industry groups on Facebook and things there. And then all of a sudden you realize that the same shit that you're posting I like, and the same shit that I'm posting you like. And next time when GIE came back around, we connected a lot and a lot deeper. And that's how we met and became friends. And never did we want anything from each other besides just being friends, right? And I like that. I like that aspect of it because I was an outsider. It had no reason being there at the GIE with all these guys that cut grass and kick ass. And dude, for some reason, everybody took me in. I think they liked that aspect because immediately they knew I didn't want anything except to be genuine and be friends. And we kicked off, you and I did, on a friendship that I still probably can't rival from the green industry. Maybe Brian Ring became a really good friend of mine, but you and I still connect and talk and follow each other along and things like that. After that, like, we commented online and did all that stuff. And then I followed your businesses, right? So Grass is Greener. That's the main one that we connected about because, of course, we're at GIE. You want to briefly go into what Grass is Greener does and the size and what it looks like?
Well, at our heyday, because we know there's been a lot of shifts. I think that's been everybody with COVID.
Yep.
At our max, we had 5 crews, 4 mowing crews, a landscape crew, and we had a fertilization team. With 20 employees. I mean, so at our peak, we were booming, we were ripping and roaring. It was insane.
It was.
It was a lot. It was a lot to do, to deal with. And I was new into the industry as far as I was only a year and a half in of running my own business versus working for someone else. And then took this thing from me and a mower and a chuck and a truck. Goodness, a year and a half in, being 18 months in, and I ballooned it into this giant company because, here where we're from in Kentucky, and I don't say this if this gets out to anybody else, I don't say it to try to cut anyone down, but professionalism and a digital kind of company was a void in the area. And that was the one niche we jumped into, is like, if you want a no fuss, no mess company that's just going to come out, take care of your property, bill you on time, show up, you don't have to worry about us being there. We were that. You didn't have to worry about if we were going to show up, what we were going to do. We wanted to make sure the one thing we did was under promise and over deliver. And I think a lot of companies, especially when they're starting out, they do the opposite. They overpromise all this stuff, trying to sell themselves, sell their business, and then they fall short, and then they're shooting their foot, before they can even get running. And so that's the one thing we wanted to make sure we did from the beginning, is pride ourselves on quality, doing a good job, and making sure we're actually doing what we say we're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, you honestly, when we were there, when I came and visited you, you were telling me that your goal was to make it worry-free for the customer. Like, they just, the easiest thing, right, for them to do.
The easiest thing, man. And the one thing, and and that's probably my favorite thing that I got from GIE is because I had been worrying and wondering about pulling the trigger on service autopilot because it's so freaking expensive.
Yep.
And literally, Jonathan Potoshnik, when he was still at the helm of everything, was at GIE, and he sat and spoke to me and my wife for 2.5 hours about every little thing. Yeah. So Jonathan, I literally can text and call Jonathan, and he'll respond to me and call me back and text me. So that was really cool for me and her to be able to do and sit and ask, the creator and owner of this company, the ins and outs, what it'll do for us. And to have him kind of put all that worry and stress away towards like, this is something that, and to this day, it's how we have been able to balloon our business and expand and really push it to where now this business is pretty much automated and running itself.
Yeah, and that's the goal, I think. Or one of the major goals, right?
Yeah, it should be the goal. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I know some people say, well, I love it, so I always want to be working in it. And okay, but you still should want to get to where the thing runs itself almost.
Right?
Oh,
absolutely.
And so that's Grass is Greener. Very successful. Congratulations on that one, I will say. And then the fun one, the one I love the most, right?
Yeah.
Because of your nana, is the food truck.
Yeah.
Right. And I always told you, I was like, dude, how wild would it be if you just looked up one day and I was in line waiting for some bulgogi?
It would be insane. It would be so crazy, man. And that was the one thing, coming out of the pandemic to us, like, we really need to pull the trigger on a secondary income. And my thought process at first was just to have something in the wintertime for our employees to be able to work, year round, because in Kentucky, snow is hit or miss. You sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. So it's not something you can depend on to keep your guys busy year round.
Right.
So to have that to where they don't have to worry about winter jobs and I don't have to worry about the unemployment hit, so it was kind of that plan. And now, it took off so well. It was such a great idea. We're already so known and respected in the area, and people love Korean food, period. If you've never had it, you're missing out. But and so I mean, it just took on a life of its own to where, believe it or not, it's really become the breadwinner of our enterprise.
Dude, it's crazy when I see the posts and you see the people, and then not only in the pictures, but in the comments. Like, dude, it's insane. And people are like, where are you? Where are we? And then you get people saying, oh my God, I'm so sad I missed it. They're like, please, where are you going to be next week? Right. And you can almost smell it through the phone, dude, when you post some pictures of it. So
what I never get used to is how people literally get so upset that we sell out and they miss it. And you'll see in the comments, people be like, you'll learn, you got to get there earlier. They'll be like, and it's so funny that people have followed us and they eat our food so much that they're even starting to learn the trend. Like, if they're going to be set up somewhere for 3 hours, you better get there in the first hour and a half, or they're going to start running out.
Yeah.
So, and that's crazy to have that kind of a demand to where you can set up somewhere for 3 hours and you won't even make it the whole 3 hours with food.
Dude, it's crazy. Honestly, dude, it's crazy. And to see how fast it got to that level was like mind numbing. It was like, holy shit.
Oh, it was warp speed, man. It was warp speed. And it was, because it's something new. Of course, I've always been a cook. I had a restaurant before. I got into the lawn and landscape thing as a business owner. It was my side gig, and then it would be my full time, and then this, that, and the other. But cooking, it has always been my passion. I've always loved food.
Yeah.
Not just to eat it because I'm a fat kid, but just to cook it for other people. It's something I've always enjoyed, and to be able to do that for money. And I tell everyone, the grass business is something that just kind of fell into my lap because I had a business partner in another business before I started my own. And he kind of went belly up, and people were just blowing me up, to be like, hey, I still want this service. I still want, to where it was almost stupid not to go get that money because it was there.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just sitting there. So I was like, well,
it was sitting there. I'm
going to go nab it.
Yeah. Why not go make a couple $1,000s a week? You're stupid not to.
Right. Right. Well, I know, with Asia's kitchen, dude, it's a wonderful thing. I've loved to see it. It to me, and this is just me as as your friend and being an outsider, to see you start another business and it get the success it has is the validity of your entrepreneurial spirit, right? You're successful at it. You've got it figured out now. We won't talk about all the other side gigs you told me about before you started
Yeah, let's keep those on the hush, dog. Let's not tell all that.
Yeah.
But you know what? I will tell you, I love that you actually said that right, because so many people butcher AJ's Kitchen to
Really?
where they'll call it, yes, they'll call it AJ's, they'll call it H's, the Asia, but the fact you literally said it correctly, it is AJ's
Yes,
Kitchen. So that's why you are my brother and
it
my
is.
homie. Like, you
It
already
is.
know. Good deal. That's what I'm
It
talking
is.
about.
It is. All right. Well, I pay attention, and
Yes, you
I,
do.
I pay attention to everything. So, all right. Well, let's talk about why you have these businesses, right? To provide for your family. So, real quick, if you're cool with it, let's give a rundown. You got your two boys, one that
Yep.
I still call T-Rex to this day because of
Yes.
the
My little
video.
dinosaur.
Yes, I'll never forget that. It made my day, and I'll never forget it for as long as when he graduates, I'm gonna run up and call him T-Rex, and when he's married, I'm gonna run up and call him T-Rex, dude. But tell us about your boys real quick and why who you provide for, my friend.
So, my oldest is 8. My youngest is 5. And of course, being married is providing and caring and nurturing thing all on its own. But that doesn't shape a lot of men like child rearing.
Right.
And when you have mouths that depend on you, and you have eyes that are watching your every move, and
Yep.
especially when you have little boys,
Yeah.
you're shaping men of tomorrow. So
Right.
you literally have people that are going to go out in this world, and they're going to treat women the way you treat their mom. They're
Right.
going to treat other people the way they see you treat other people. They're
Right.
going to react in the world the way they see you react in the world. It is
Exactly.
so much responsibility. And if you take it lightly, you're going to ruin your own children.
Right.
And so that was the biggest thing for me to realize, okay, I know what I didn't have in a father.
Yep.
I know what I grew up lacking in that male role model, what should have been better.
Yep.
And it would be a miss for me to not recognize it
Yep.
and do something differently. I
Yeah.
could have phoned it in and did the same boring old, whatever, go get a 9 to 5 and not reach for the stars and not pour into them with all my hopes and dreams and let them see it lived out loud.
Yeah.
Who wants to live boring?
Oh man, I think people settle. They settle,
Oh,
dude, and I can't.
my wife's Korean. There's no such thing as settling, bro. When
No,
you
no, dude.
when you marry an Asian woman, there's no such thing as settling.
I know, dude. Dude, when I show up, she tells me to get my ass in gear. I'm
Oh,
like,
dude, there's not.
hey,
Yeah, there's not
man.
anyone that she does. Oh, yeah.
I'm like, I'm like, I'm like, damn, Deb, can you give me a hug first? Like, shit,
And that's
man.
literally what it is. Everyone calls it now getting debbed. You've been debbed.
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah,
need to
you
get
get
her a
dubbed
line
right
of
away.
t-shirts like you've been debbed.
That'll be good too. Yeah. I'll buy one. So that's who you provide for, man. And grass is greener. Although you have a lot of family come through grass is greener through the years, right? And
Yeah.
family help you with the food truck and stuff. Uh, that's what you're based on, right? Family, dude, and your
Yeah.
businesses, and you can tell in your posts and things. That's your heart, that's your
Yeah.
love, and not only your wife and the boys, but your family as well. And the last few years, you've been dealt some blows. Your family's been dealt some big blows, man. And same on my end as well.
Yeah.
Mine has too. And we've been together during some of this stuff, you and I as
Right.
well. And we do
Yeah.
our best to put a smile on and act like we're cool. And there's days we're not cool. And that's
Right.
totally, I've come to find out that's totally okay.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
So let's talk about some of the first ones. You know, you had some family members that passed away, right?
Yeah.
And they were wonderful, wonderful people. I loved seeing the posts. I missed those things, but I remember all the stuff about them that you posted. Can we kind of talk into that and dive into that? Because your culture as well is very family oriented.
Yes, Asian culture is very family orientated. It's all, and and that's Asian culture. It also goes into the immigrant culture of family. You're all you have to depend on because you're new to a country. You
Yep.
don't have a lot of friends. You don't. The language is foreign. The customs are foreign, so you're normally holed up. At least for that first generation, maybe two generations, you're holed up together doing everything, and everything's communal. You share money, you share food, you share everything. So you share your hopes, your dreams,
Yep.
your triumphs, your failures. It's all shared. So
Yeah.
it was tough. And then in 2020, losing my brother just underneath me, my younger brother, to a heart attack, unexpectedly,
Yep.
was literally, it was the gut punch that you never see coming. You never think that in your 30s you're going to lose someone that you've literally spent every day with.
Yep.
Because we were only 2 years. I'm 2 years older than him. I'm the oldest brother. I'm 2 years older than him.
Mm-hmm.
So I've literally been there next to him, and he's been next to me every step, every day of our lives. And when you're young, you're growing up together, and me and him, we always had this competitive fire between the two of us, to where we were always pushing and launching each other.
Uh-huh.
Um, and you never imagine a day where that's going to be cut early. You never imagine that it's even a possibility.
Yep.
You see it happen, and it happens, and you always think to yourself, that's going to be everybody else. That's not going to be me. That's
Yep.
going to be everybody else's problems. And God forbid, it's never going to be us. And then when it happens, um, if you're not careful, it can swallow you up, because you start to forget all the good times. You start to forget all the things that are going to carry you through,
Yep.
and just the loss, because a loss like that is so magnified that it almost becomes impossible to get away from. You know,
Yeah.
this is going to be the first time I talk about this here on your podcast, so I'm going to blow your mind.
Sure.
And if anyone hears this, but my brother passed away February 25th in 2020.
Yep.
September 26th, I had a gun in my mouth ready to pull the trigger and blow my brains out in my own living
Man.
room.
Man.
And the one thing that stopped me from doing it was the fact that the pistol misfired. And
Really?
I had set my playlist on my computer of all my family photos.
Man.
And right when I pulled the trigger, the last photo that got stuck on the screen when I pulled the trigger in the misfire was a picture of my Korean grandmother. And I still have that bullet today. And you can see where it hit the center fire. It was a 45. So I wanted to make sure if I was going to do it, I was going to take care of business.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And you can still see to this day, you can still see the imprint, of on the cartridge. I mean, it's still there, and why it didn't fire. From that moment, I knew something was going on,
Yep. Far
bigger than
beyond
me,
what we. Yep.
far beyond.
Yep.
Yeah, far beyond, man. And at that point, and this is what's crazy, because even you right now are, I'm sure, probably spinning in your head going, what? Like, what do you mean? And anybody that knows me and sees the things that I post and I do, everyone, it's apparent that I struggle with mental illness. I'd never make that a secret. I never
Yep.
have.
Yep.
But you see on the outside, they take all these amazing trips. They have this amazing business. They're loved and
Yes.
well respected.
Yes.
But when you have all this internal struggle,
Yep.
none of that matters, and all that stuff, it starts to feel overwhelming. And when you're holding it all in because you feel like you have this facade you have to keep up for everybody else,
Yep.
it chokes you out.
Yeah,
And
man.
then I was struggling at the moment with my faith,
Yeah.
and that's what kind of led me to that point of feeling like there was nowhere else to go.
Dude,
um
we I did a podcast with Prince Daniels earlier, a couple years ago, and
yeah
he's an NFL player, and we had the same conversation, and he was like, dude, I got kicked out of the NFL. He didn't get kicked out. He just was like, they just
Lost
let him
that.
go. Yep, they just
Yeah.
let him go. And he was like, I was going to hang myself in the closet. He's like, and I left and had a note, had everything ready and everything else. He's like, and then he said, I made a call, was going to call somebody and tell them, and they told me to sit down and meditate. He's like, and when it did, he's like, something happened. So I don't want to go all the way into that, but at that
Yeah.
same moment, dude, I started to tell him about the times that I've thought about that, right? And I've thought about suicide. And it's not something easy to just talk about because
Yeah.
you literally, right? So you almost literally have to have a nervous breakdown to explain to people how hard you're trying to hold shit together. And you
Yep.
shouldn't have to do that. You should just
Nope.
be able to explain it and say
Yep.
it and people understand, but they don't. And it just piles up. And I've had this conversation with a couple people and they're just like, man, I don't see how it could ever get that bad. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you don't understand. Like it's
Until you're in it.
all the
Yeah.
things that matter to you and I um, aren't money. It's not
No.
materials. It's not trips.
No.
And honestly, it is people, but it's the emotions that come from those people that matter the most, right? Because if they treated us bad, real bad, we'd be like, all right, man, we got to cut you out of here. Like we can't handle
Yeah.
that. But it's not. It's the emotions that come from those people, whether they hurt us or we lose them. And then we have to try to figure out why. And there's not one damn answer to tell us why
Nope.
in those moments, right? And you
Right.
guys had a beautiful girl in your life, right? And
Yeah.
and you lost her on top of that,
Yeah.
and it's rough, right? So you get to this
Oh yeah.
point, right? You get to that point, and you would think that it's all over, right? Like I've hit the bottom. Nothing bad can happen. The universe and God isn't going to deal anything worse to me. And then
Yep.
worse happens. Bad stuff keeps happening. And
Yep.
here we are trying to stay on it. So, dude, some of those posts literally broke my heart of what you were posting because I was going through some shit that had me feeling the same exact way. You've met my wife Kelly, and her and
Yeah.
I have had issues these last few years, and dude, it breaks your heart because you want something so bad to be, and it's hard for it to be, and you
Yeah.
just can't fathom why. And then my girl Elizabeth ended up having a tumor. You've met those two.
Yeah.
She had a tie on her face that scared the shit out of us.
Yep.
On top of all that going on, and meanwhile, dude, I had to come put my pants on, tie my shoes up, and come to work and lead and
Yeah.
be strong. And what was it like? What when you were there and at that point, and it didn't happen. More stuff happened, right on
Yeah.
top of it.
I mean, it was the last few years have been nuts, man. Like, I went through that personally. Then
Yep.
a few months later, my brother passed away. And then the foreman of my company, which had also been my best friend since we were probably 12 years old, took his own life. And then, and then we ended up losing my niece. And
Yep.
then this year, my aunt passed away from COVID. And, in all that, we lost two babies in utero.
Yeah.
So you're right. It felt like everything just kept coming and coming and the hits kept coming, but in the midst of all that, I found this resolution and faith, and not so much just going to a building and going to a church, but
Right.
just finding that inner dialogue that yes, this is real. Even when you struggle, even when you're dealing with the mess, you're still worthy, you're still loved. It's not so, and finally figuring out and realizing that grace isn't something you have to earn, it's just freely given,
Yes.
and there's nothing that I can do right or wrong that's going to separate me from that, was probably the most freeing thing to ever happen. And that doesn't mean that I still don't struggle. I still don't have my good days and my bad days, because every day, man,
Yes.
when you're dealing with mental illness, some days are good, some days are bad.
Dude, the
But
triggers that come up surprise me, right?
yeah. Oh
That
yeah.
that something completely off the wall that is unrelatable to the common person will send me into a spiral that is hard for me to come out of, and it completely blindsides me,
Yeah.
right? And the hard part is you hope that gets easier, and when you find that grace like you're talking about, which really comes from a man thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking and then reaching and reaching and grabbing on to anything that's left, you
Yeah.
do grab onto something. But
Yeah.
It's the same thing that's always been there. You just didn't have to find it until now.
Yep.
You know, and when we do, we're so grateful for it. But that's the rebuild, right? I mean,
Yes.
that's the first step. I watched Jason Thompson, my friend and somebody that I knew, transition into Jason Thompson, who I believe really is Jason Thompson through
Right.
through all this stuff. I seen that, and I went through that same transition too. The person I was 3 years ago is not who I am today, and the things
Yeah.
that matter to me today really, I knew that they were there, but they didn't matter to me like they do now, right?
Right.
So once you grab that, that grace, the main thing is, dude, that you feel as a man, right? I don't want to say sissified or whatever, but you
I
feel
mean,
like,
what are we taught our whole lives? Suck
yeah,
it up,
suck it
tough
up.
it up, rub some dirt
Yep.
on it.
Yep.
Big boys don't cry.
That's right.
Don't no, don't let anyone ever see you sad or
Yep.
upset because it makes you look weak. Like,
Yep.
don't show no emotions or you won't
Yep.
feel like you're a man.
And definitely don't talk
We're
about it.
don't talk about it. We're so stigmatized and lied to from the time that we're boys all the way up until we're grown men,
Yep.
that we become trapped in our own toxic masculinity to where we think that the worst thing we can do is have emotions and deal with struggles. And it's the most insane thing. And that's why I try to be transparent and
Yes.
share everything that I go through, everything that I struggle with in the triumphs. And and I had someone tell me one time that it seems like I'm being like, oh, you don't have to brag about all, and I'm like, that's not bragging, because I tell you the losses. Like,
Yeah.
it's not. I'm telling you the struggles. I'm telling you when I'm in the valleys. So yeah,
Yes.
I'm going to tell you when I'm on top of the mountain too.
Yes.
I'm sharing every step of this with you, because when you're in your valley, I want you to know that the mountain is just around the corner. You
Exactly.
just can't give up. You just got to keep
Right.
pushing through. And that
Right.
doesn't happen unless you share it all.
That's right.
And you know what? When I'm on top of the mountain and you're in your valley, it's going to look like I'm bragging to you until
Yeah.
you're on top of the
Yeah.
mountain and I'm in
Yeah.
my valley. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, and that's what a lot of people have to realize is the first thing you have to stop doing in life is stop comparing your journey, your life, to anybody else.
You
You
nailed
you
it.
and I grew up a lot alike.
We
And
did.
there's a lot of people that are probably listening to this that grew up the same way we did. Dirt
Right.
ass poor.
Right.
Dirt ass poor. And you
Yep.
know what? And most of the people that grow up that way, they dig it out the mud, everything they need and everywhere they get for life. Most people do. Some don't. Some people
Yeah.
stay stuck in that.
They
And you
do.
know what? I hate it for them. And those are the people I'm trying to inspire, because I was that guy.
Yeah.
And somebody like Gary V seems so unattainable to somebody that's just scratching their way out of a trailer park. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
but Jason Thompson with his long hair and his beard and his
Plenty
tattoos and
relatable. Plenty
way
relatable.
more relatable than some Gary V.
Dude,
You know what I'm
if
saying?
I could grow hair, mine would be long. I got the ink, right? I got the ink. I'm good to go on that. But
Right,
I
right,
just can't grow the hair, dude.
right,
Um,
right.
dude, so when we talk about this stuff, right? Your heart getting broke. And dude, you want to know the post, and I'll probably cry talking about this, is when you posted, I love you guys.
Yeah,
You, Deb, and the boys. I really, really do. Um, when you posted and said, um, my wife's heart is broken and I cannot console her, dude, that felt like me talking to me, because in those moments, dude, I could not be consoled, and there was nobody that could
yeah,
could could be there. So I brought myself out of all that stuff. Same way I think you did, right? You I call it meditating, but really, dude, all I did was try to figure this out. It was like a Rubik's cube, and I twisted and twisted and twisted and twisted until I could try to figure out this puzzle of me and my life and why. And what I come to find out is, and I think you'll probably agree with me as we were talking about grabbing onto grace, is that you can't grab onto grace while you're holding on to all the things you were before
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that you
yeah,
thought mattered, right?
yep, yep.
So how in that moment when we were down there and you were down there, how did you deal with all of that shit, Jason? That like all the deaths, and all the losses. How did you start to deal with that to come out of that? Yeah, obviously it put you on the edge to where you were done. I talked about it. I've talked about it with people how I had planned on doing it, like how would be the best way for
Yeah.
me, right? And it was brutal. I hated to even have the thought of it. Never thought I ever would in my entire life get to that point. And this was like, that's not me, dude. I can't. I was the same person that is talking to us now that says, I can't see how it can ever get that bad, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now when I hear people say that, I have been there, right? And
Yep.
I'm totally like, dude, I've been there. I
Yeah.
promise you, that mountain that you're talking about, Jason, it's like, that's what you have to relay is, dude, I've been there. Give it time, go through every day, pray to whoever or whatever, anywhere, so that
Yep.
you're thinking and that you believe it's going to be okay. And then
Yep.
you start to come out of it. How did you handle that as far as trying to come out of it and climb it and find that grace you were talking about?
I think the biggest thing for me was being honest, and not just being honest with the people around me, but being honest with myself. Because when you're an entrepreneur, especially when you're trying to build something bigger than what you've ever seen, and you have this dream and this goal that's bigger than anything you've ever been shown, you have to lie to yourself. You have to sell yourself first on what you can achieve, even though you don't see it. So
Yeah.
you're gassing yourself up and you're pushing yourself for this attainable idea that always just seems like it's just out of reach, but one day you're going to get there. So then one day you have to realize, I got to cut the shit with myself. I got to start being honest and real with myself before I can be honest and real with all the people around me. And then and once you get on the other side of being honest, now you're starting to have real communication and real conversations with people. And when you start to get real, you start to realize who is really in your corner, and
Yep.
you start to realize who's there just for the
Benefit.
yeah, I mean, you know what? Yeah, for what they gain,
Yeah.
what they got, and I hate to say it this way because it's such a crappy thing to say, man. But it's like mice at a table. There's just some people that are okay with snatching up the crumbs that fall off of yours,
Yeah.
and they could care less how the crumbs get there, but they're cool to be there to snatch them up, man. And
Yeah.
it is what it is. But until you start to get transparent, a light cannot shine through you. And until you start to get rid of all of that stuff, you have to forgive people that never asked for or gave you an apology.
Yeah.
You
For
start to, you
yourself.
have to, yeah, you have to.
You
And
have
until
to.
you
It's
unlearn
for
that,
you.
you have to. And
Yeah.
if you don't, it'll drown you. And you don't realize how many things that you hold on to, that you kind of just shove way down deep
Yep.
until it's all exploding. And when it's
Yep.
all exploding, it's like I would imagine it's like a septic tank when you finally when you finally pop through all the
Yeah.
fluffables and you're finally exploding this thing, man. It's
Yeah.
like
All the
this,
shit comes out.
man.
Yeah.
And then you're left dealing with this stuff that you've pushed down for 20 plus years, and you're
Yeah.
having to deal with it as a grown man with a family with businesses, and it can get
Dude.
messy, man. And
Dude.
the biggest thing
Yeah.
was me and my wife finally understanding each other,
Yeah.
because my wife went from dealing with this husband who was a go-getter in sales and did all these amazing things and had this job and was booming and building all this stuff to she didn't even recognize this man that couldn't get out of bed,
Yeah.
who this man that was struggling with his weight, that was struggling with his mental health, that was struggling with anything, to where the only
Yep.
thing she could see was, you're lazy. What are you
Yeah.
doing? Why is this stuff happening? What are you doing?
Yep.
And then it took her starting to realize something more is going on with my husband than what I realized, and she had to learn grace. She took it upon herself to start teaching and learning on her own what these mental health things are and what it goes through, to where she not just for me, but to where she had peace, to where she could
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
And then that changed everything, because once I hit that rock bottom and I'm climbing my way out of it, and when you really have open and raw communication with the person that you're doing life with, it changes everything. Because even now to this day, she'll start to see when I'm starting to have bad days. And the thing that breaks your heart as a father is when your children go to their mother and say,
Yep.
"Why's Dad sad today?
Yep.
Is there something going on that I don't know about?"
Yep.
And knowing my son is 8 years old and he knows that this amazing mountain that he looks up to, that is everything to him,
Yep.
has stuff that he deals with and struggles with, to where my 8-year-old is like, "Is my dad okay today? What's going on with Dad?" And it's like he knows when I'm off, and then he'll just pile on love and hugs and entertaining me and trying to make me
Yeah.
laugh and smile. And
Yeah.
it's like, how can you not pull yourself out of it when you
I
got this
know.
whole other life form that
I know, dude.
you are his everything.
Yep.
And then so it's like, you know what? If this day just got a little better,
Yeah, dude.
and you have to start taking the wins no matter where they come from, because the losses are always going to be there. So
Yeah.
you have to start grabbing every single win you can and love it.
Dude, when you talk about Deb that way, I watched you two fall in love all over again. When she was willing to do that, to figure you out, not only for you but for herself too. Um, you love that woman, man,
Oh man.
and I love that
Oh,
you love that woman. I'm actually jealous of her because she's got all your love, dude, and I don't
she's
get
got
any
it all.
nowadays, right?
Uh,
Um,
Man, that
when,
not only did I chase her from the 5th grade, all the way to where we're at now, and she wouldn't give my little, Miss Homecoming Queen wouldn't give this bad kid, the time of day. But
yeah,
and so that was always there. But and
yeah,
it's sometimes the cliches are so ridiculous, but you hit it right on the head. We, going through the stuff we've gone through, and not only as business owners together, even though she has a full-time job with the VA and all that
she
stuff,
works her
but
ass off.
she
Yeah,
works her ass off, man.
I'm sure.
And that's, she doesn't get a near enough credit for the things that she does, and that's why I always try to make sure that I put it out there, because people don't. They even, now that we're going through the stuff we're doing now, which I may share some of that later, but
Yeah.
people don't even know. They're like, "What? You don't work for just a business?" I'm like, "No, man, she's a big baller, bro. Y'all just riding on my coattails." But truth be told, if Mama didn't trade in her SUV, there would have been no starting of Grass is Greener. Like,
Yes,
there's
sir.
the reason why. That's why I went and bought her a platinum level vehicle, because she gave up her dream car so I could start a business.
Yeah,
Like
it's
that.
sacrifice.
You have to. If you don't sacrifice together, you'll
It
never win.
is. I mean, when you think about your business, you started it to sacrifice, and a great thing came of it. So then you
Oh yeah.
start thinking about your relationship, right? And your relationship with yourself, I'll touch on first, because when I talked to Prince Daniels Jr., who is the all-time record holder for the NCAA bowl game yards in a game, and went on to play for the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
So that guy's got clout, but way more clout than I got, right? Um,
Bad.
for him wanting to end his life and talk about it on the podcast and say that for the first time when he sat down and took that moment, that he goes to a monastery, so that's his monk. That he the guy he called said, just sit down and meditate for a minute. And he's like, something amazing happened. And he was going to try to explain it. And I cut him off, which I try not to do, but I can't help it. That's just the way I communicate, I guess. And I said, he's like, and I said, you saw yourself and found yourself for the first time. And dude, if you could have seen his reaction on the podcast, if you ever get to go back and watch it, he's like, yeah. And I said, I know. I said, I recently have just found myself for the first time too. And I know who I
Yeah.
am. I know who I'm supposed to be. And it's far different than who I thought I was going to be or who I was going towards before
Yeah.
I found myself. And I
And
watched.
that's the journey I'm on right now. Yep.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at now. I'm carving out that space for myself now,
Yeah.
because for so long my identity became attached to Grass is Greener,
Uh-huh.
and that became to where even, my kids think of me as this celebrity, because they're
Yeah.
like, everybody knows you. My dad's famous. Like,
Yeah.
you can't go out to dinner without multiple people coming up to talk to you. Like,
Yep.
so they have an inflated version of me in their heads, because the business, and this being a small community, and we do so much in this community for the youth and the high schools and the sports teams, to where we are loved and we are, um, you
Appreciated.
know, regarded well. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
appreciated,
I
you know,
appreciate it.
and so and people have no problem stopping and talking to us, you know, because it is a small town, so we're very well known, and
Yep.
people will when they see us out, which is terrible if you have anxiety.
Oh,
But
brutal.
it's brutal. You know, you're trying to go out and have dinner, and you got to stop and talk to 17 people before you sit down.
Yeah.
But
Especially when you just pulled yourself together before you walked through the door.
yeah, literally, you know,
Yeah.
and it is, it's a lot. It can be a lot sometimes, but you know, I understand that it's not for me. It's those people showing their appreciation and their gratitude for all the things that we do
Yes.
selflessly. And
Yeah.
it would be remiss for me to take that away from them because it's pushing me outside of my comfort zone.
Right. And when you think about the gratitude and appreciation, you know, you look at your boys now, right? And you say, oh, you know, when I was down, my boy would shower me with love. And all of a sudden you get an appreciation and a gratitude for what actually are gifts, right? Like
Yeah.
our kids are wonderful gifts. Mine are. I know they are, dude.
Oh,
Mine do the same thing. My girl will catch me off guard. I have not seen anything as beautiful in this world as that little girl. And then my boy will do the same thing. He did the same thing, right? He would come up and put his arm around me. He's like, "Why are you sad, Dad?" And he did the same thing, dude. They just naturally have that, and just them doing that uh already starts to bring you out of it, right?
yep.
And I think I honestly believe that's why they are in our lives.
Oh
the
yeah.
the struggle is recognizing that before it's too late, right?
Yep.
And I
Yep.
think that that's the problem what we have with people who take their lives is that it's very hard to recognize that, and the place that you have to go to find that and recognize that is a dark, deep place that nobody wants to go, and you don't want to have to think about those things and go there to find what they are, to let them go and forgive. Like you said, you know,
Yeah.
when you forgive, you're doing it for yourself. It's actually an act of selfishness, but it's also an act of caring, because you're caring so much about yourself that you're willing to let those things go, even though justifiably people would say that you can hang on to that shit, right?
Yeah.
Like
You have every
you
reason
have
to hold
every
on to
reason
that
to, right?
forever.
And then I think, yeah, but I have the main reasons not to. And
Yeah.
and we hit that. How did it affect your business, man? When or how does it affect it? I guess I can ask that too, because
You know,
I still struggle with it. It's not as bad as it was. Some days hit
yeah.
me super hard, but they're few and far between anymore. I don't think about the things that trigger me anymore, or did
Yeah.
trigger me, but there are things that surprise me nowadays that will trigger me that, you know, I can't help. How did it affect your business?
I am so thankful. And you know, I already talked about service autopilot.
Yeah,
I'm so thankful that I already had automations in place
dude.
to where there was so much of my business that was already online.
Yep.
So when I'm struggling and I'm dealing with all this stuff, people are emailing or they're sending things through the client portal on Service Autopilot to where I don't have to call them. I don't have
Yeah.
to come out to their house. Like I can take care of it. My employees can do their job without seeing my face because all they have to do is grab their work list on a tablet and go knock it out.
And they're good.
Everybody knew their role to where even if I wasn't on site day in and day out all week, it
Yep.
still rolled without me.
Cool.
And I'm so thankful I already had it to that place, and which is the hardest thing for a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners to do, is to let go of control.
Yeah,
And
I
so
struggle with it.
it's
Yeah.
so and you know, and it's hard today. It's very hard. And I'm very fortunate that I have brothers and nephews that I can put to work, that I trust, that do a good job and are able to do the work. So I'm way fortunate that way, because good Lord, have I been through all kinds of employees.
Yes, sir.
Um,
Yes,
I
sir.
think we all have. I think that's probably, if there's anything about owning a business, the hardest thing is just the labor, man. Keeping the laborers and the employees, like, and it doesn't matter what you pay them or how amazing the work atmosphere is or what bonuses you throw at them.
Yep.
It's just hard to get people, especially if it's labor, man.
Yeah,
Like
to
it,
stay. It's
people
just hard
don't
to get
like
them to
to work,
stay.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, not to dwell out on a different topic, but they're not happy, right?
No.
And it parlays into this, and they come here thinking that the things the world have shown them,
Yep.
that you can buy with money
Yep.
is what's gonna end that happiness. And so, like you said, don't matter what you pay them, don't matter how many
Yep.
bonuses you give them, The main thing that I try to relay here is that they are my friends,
Yep.
right? And that no matter what, all I want is for you to be happy.
Yep.
And
Yep.
if you can figure that out, and if I can help you figure that out, great. If it's here, fantastic. If it's not here, please go and let me know how I can help you find it.
I've never, to this day, knock on wood, not that it really matters, I have yet to have a single employee that left my company that didn't regret it and try to get their job back.
Yeah.
And there's been a few that I've hired back a few times and try to let them work it out while they go, because I am very forgiving. I
Yeah.
am very understanding, because I understand we all go through things, and
Exactly.
we all make bad decisions, and sometimes you don't always have a Deborah in your ear that's in,
Oh
getting you
yeah.
to do things. Sometimes you have someone worse in your ear and they're not
Yeah,
telling you.
yeah, 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 yeah. It's
So
true. It's
I
actually
get it.
it is.
Yeah.
It's totally
Yeah,
true. It
it is,
is.
so I get it, and I try to work with people if I'm going to bring them back in, because I believe in a God of second chances, so who am I not to give one? So
Exactly. Dude, that's the
yeah,
exact same shit I said.
yep.
Exact. When like I said, I cut people off. Sorry, Jason.
No, you're good. I do too. So we're good.
When shit happened between Kelly and I, there were people like, just that's it, be done. And this was people that were very, very, very close to me. And
Yeah.
in our family, I was like, just, be done. You guys just be done. And son, just move, or you take it, deal with the kids, however you're going to, just be done. And I literally turned the truck around 2 or 3 times to go to a lawyer to try to figure this out and just be done. And the only feeling I had is, like you just said, we have a God of second chances that forgave us, right? For being
Again
completely
and again and again and
foolish.
again.
Yes. And if I say that I am trying to be like him, then that means that I have to try to forgive
Yep.
and do have to, right?
Yep. Yep.
So thankfully, my upbringing in my faith pumped those brakes, right? Because it's the only thing that didn't have me rush, and I'm
Yeah.
thankful for that. I'm thankful for that, for my kids, for my family, for Kelly, for everybody. I'm thankful that I didn't rush to that.
Yeah.
It has not been an easy road. Don't get me wrong. I've made a lot of mistakes since then. She's made mistakes since then. People around us have made mistakes since then. And you come to realize that when people say, we're all just human, they're actually right. We are all just human, man.
Yep.
There's nobody perfect anymore.
Nope.
All right.
Nope. We were made flawed, so we would have to seek him. That
Exactly.
was the entire design, was to make us flawed, because the only thing that can make us whole, we have to find in him.
Ex-
And if we don't find that in God, we'll be searching for it our entire lives. You'll search
Forever.
for it in the gym, you'll search
Yep.
for it in your job, you'll search for it in drugs and
Yep.
chasing. You'll search and you'll try to fill this void that only comes from one place,
Yeah.
because it was put there intentionally for you to seek. And if you
Yes.
don't seek the right thing, you'll definitely fall into the wrong.
You know what's crazy is the feeling of of it was there all along, and it
Yep.
was like, I've been right beside you the whole time.
Yep.
And all of a sudden and it's effortless, right? Like,
And I'll say this, and this might piss a lot of people off, but I don't really care. It's the church's fault,
oh
because the
yeah,
church, the
trust me,
church,
dude. You're not revealing
American
anything.
Western church pushes us on this sinful, you're sin, you're so
Yeah.
terrible. In the church that I started going through, that literally saved my life. And I've heard the gospel 4 million times. I've read the Bible 4 million times. Back to, that was like my
Yep.
manual for let's try to figure it out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've heard the story of Adam and Eve in the garden
Yep.
4 million times. But I sat there with this man, and he told me, and we're in church, and he's preaching his sermon, and he's talking about the Garden of Eden. And he said, before they ate the fruit, God was coming every morning in the cool of the day, and he was having a walk with Adam in the garden. They would walk and they would talk about all of God's plans for the earth and for humanity. They would do that every morning. And when they ate the fruit, They hid themselves, but God still showed up for his walk with Adam.
Yeah.
The very first story we're told in the Bible tells us that it is never about our sin. It's about the relationship that he wants. And because we shielded ourselves from him, we now remove ourselves from the relationship. If God ever cared about our sin, from day one, he would have never showed up as soon as Adam ate the fruit. But he didn't care.
You know, one thing that I honestly truly believe is that you could find him without, and this is crazy, right, for me to think, and then we'll never know now, obviously, but I believe that there, you know, and there are some people in parts of the world who have never heard the scripture, yet still today there are those people. But I honestly believe they could find him without it.
Right? Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's why there are so many religions anyways, is because they're finding him no matter what,
in different forms. Yeah, exactly. They're finding him in different forms, different channels. And
it's through the same system.
I heard this thing from a Jewish man maybe 10 or 15 years ago, right? And he was talking about the differences in the Muslims and Judaism and Christianity and Buddhism and all these different things. And he said, here's my thing as a rabbi. He said, I've done this for 80 years. He was like almost 90 years old. I love it.
I took Cheeks' coffee cup.
And so, you know, he was like in his 80s. And he said, you know, I view all religions around the world the same way we do trees.
Yeah.
You have different trees in different areas of the world. But the one thing about all these trees is they all grow up. They're all skyward. And that's what all these religions are. Is they're different ways all around the world of trying to reach for that higher power and reach for the creator. We just have different beliefs. We have different structures. We have different stuff, but it's all pointing to the same God.
You know how I describe it is a giant stream. I hate to think about it like a river, but like a stream, because a stream's gentle and carries you. And when you're going against the current, you can feel it because you get tired, bad shit happens, and it's brutal. And then when you reset and you just let it carry you, then you're like, oh, this is where it's at. And
these last 2 years have been the easiest. Like I've been busy, but man, you talking about the most peaceful and thing. You know, we talked about how fast the food truck took off, and there's a difference when you're operating in the spirit. Man, this is going to turn into a Christian talk here, but when you're operating in the spirit for what God wants for your life versus what you're trying to manifest for yourself.
Yeah.
When you're trying to force your way versus taking what God has always wanted for you, that's when you're fighting against the stream. You're trying to fight and claw and scratch. You got to do that anyway. But when you're doing what God wants you to do, it's so much easier.
Dude, it falls into your lap again, like we're talking about. Like there's times where you know, things happen and somebody shows up, and I was literally thinking earlier that day that I need this to happen, and it does. Or I'll have a conversation with somebody like Cheeks, sorry about it, you took your cup, Cheeks, and you know, we'll say, man, we really need this to happen, and then
it happens.
It falls right in.
You know,
like, dude, all we got to do is believe, and it does happen. It does happen. It comes to you that way.
Power of attraction.
Yes.
Not just what you're thinking, but what comes out of your mouth.
And what you feel.
It's so important. And not getting too much in the Christian stuff, but I'm so deep into it because I believe it. That's what's changed my life. That's why I'm where I'm at.
Good.
And it tells us how important what comes out of our mouth, because everything that exists in this world today was spoken into existence.
Yes.
And if you're concentrated on the worry and the stress and the anxiety and the problems, guess what you're creating? You're creating more stress, anxiety, more problems. If you're focused on solutions, possibilities and things that can happen that are good, you're focusing on positivity, and that's the universe cannot magnify anything other than what you give it. And if you're giving it negativity, it's gonna magnify negativity.
You get what you give. And so one thing that I've always pondered, and I had a revelation on, and I don't know, there's no way to prove it really, but people say there's power in prayer, right? And
absolutely,
when you hook up nanodes to your brain and all those little patches, and they tell you to think about something, all of a sudden it starts going crazy, right? And then they'll say, think about this, and it'll be like this. So your thoughts have some kind of a force, regardless, right?
It's all energy.
So then if we go to the science side of it, and you talk about Sir Isaac Newton, for every action there's a equal and opposite reaction. So if we're forcing something has to come back. There's
Yep.
some kind of reaction. So if we're
Yep.
forcing negative, that's what's going to happen, dude. It's going to come
Yep.
to you. And if you are taking that in and you're around people that are doing that, it's in your thoughts. Therefore, it's going out that way. And
Yep.
you're going to keep in this cycle. The hardest thing to do is to cut people out of your life that you care about.
Yes.
Right?
Oh my. Cutting off the dead fruit from a tree to save the
Brutal.
tree is
It's
hard. And
brutal.
and here's the hard part. When it's your own family, when it's
Yes.
people you grew up with,
Yes.
when it's people that you never
love 'em.
imagined you love, that you never imagined their time would expire, not because they passed, but because their time has just expired.
Yep.
It's hard. And I went through that in the last year with a very close family member. I'm not going to out her,
That's
but
okay.
I went through that with a very close family member, and I was just talking to my nephew because they're coming home from Lindsey Wilson College because school's over tomorrow for the summer.
Cool.
And he's like, "What? How are you going to do? You're moving, you're doing all this stuff." And I said, "You know what? There's so many people I've learned to live without that I'm okay leaving. Like and I'm just spilled a lot of beans. But anyway, I'm not going to go too much into that. But I've learned to live without so many people that I never saw myself living. My brother, my aunt, my grandmother, my niece. That you learn to be like, you know what? I'm okay with letting go because the most important people are the people I have in this house.
So before you keep going, because I've had a criteria or an agenda written down for this podcast, and we
blew right through that.
Yeah, we're going through it,
Yeah.
but with no prompt, right?
Yeah, it's awesome.
So that's how we work. We both know that this is how we work and how it works when we're together. So tell me what it's like now, with everything you went through, and also tell me the silver linings, right, that you found through all this tragedy, through making it through. One of them is, I know one for a fact, is that you're in love with Deborah way more than you ever have been. I have a feeling, right? So tell me what it's like now for you, day to day, after going through all this, after finding yourself, finding some peace, right? And then tell me about some of the silver linings that have came through some of this tragedy, man.
So I think the biggest lesson that has transcended through all this is that just because you're having a bad day doesn't mean you need to have a bad week. Or just because you had a bad morning doesn't mean the whole day needs to be bad. So learning part of that for myself was transcendent. But just learning that through everything I've been through, everything I've struggled with, all the tragedy, all the business stuff, that learning that I've been held through it all. And that that's been I've always been an optimist. That's just who I am at my core. I always believe that. And so seeing it in years in retrospect, because here me and my wife now have been married for 10 years, and when we first got together, there were so many people that are telling her that I'm a loser and I'm a this and I'm that. And I'm like, look, I'm a Nile. It's almost comical at this point now, because it's like, when you've been counted out by everybody that knows you, and then strangers are the ones who see your value, it's almost comical.
Well, it is, but then that also is the reassuring fact that blood doesn't matter. The relationship doesn't matter, dude. It really, what matters is
not near important as the one you create.
Yes. Yeah. And there's people that have been around me my whole life, Jason, that I don't care about as much as I care about you, and aren't as close to me as I am with you. And we don't always talk. We both know that we're both there, right? And you usually,
but we keep up with each other.
A couple months goes by in between, and I always try to, if something is up, I always try to say something like, just randomly, dude. Like I can feel it, right? And and that's when we reach out. So the silver lining.
The silver linings, I would have to say, other than just the freeingness of now these businesses, I've completely stepped away from my grass business. My brother runs at 100% on his own. I've stepped away completely from my food truck. My nephew runs that completely on his own.
Yep.
So being able to remove myself from my businesses, still create revenue. I'm pretty much a stay-at-home dad, to where I take my kids to school, I get them clean, I make sure the dinner's fed, I make sure my wife gets everything that she needs, and we actually are getting ready. Our
Go
businesses
ahead.
are so set
Go
that
ahead. The next one says the next bullet point says future.
What's coming up.
Yeah.
And we just sold our house on Tuesday, and we got our other house that we own in Shepherdsville for sale. So we're finally at such a big place in our businesses that we're going to move away from our home state, and we're going to retire at the beach at 40 years old. And to be able to do that is the most insane testimony of what is capable when you let go and you trust God. When you let go and you stop forcing your life and you trust God and you operate with what He wants for you, and everything blesses abundantly and your cup just continues to boil over. It's insane, because you cannot outgive heaven. And I have given my entire life, and now the harvest has come back, and the harvest is bountiful. And to be able to be in the position to move to Florida with my family 100% completely debt free, to be able to purchase a home, start over, bring our food truck with us to Florida, where it's going to be magnified even more, because there's more tourism, there's more people, there's more. It's just to see that the growth of it isn't done. It's not finished.
No,
this is just the true beginning.
Yeah.
And to see where this is going to go in the future, and I still get to be a stay-at-home dad through it all, is amazing. Because now my focus from this entrepreneur that wanted to build this empire, to build all this stuff, now my focus is to be dad. Now my focus is to be present. Because time is the real currency.
Yes, I will agree.
You can make more money tomorrow. I can make more money tomorrow, but you know what you're not going to get? You're not going to get that baseball game back. You're not going to get that night of sitting around eating s'mores around a campfire back. You're not going to get that night of playing Uno back. You're not going to get the baths and the bedtimes and the stories back. You're not going to get that.
No.
It's gone forever.
Yep. And when we think about, you want to know a crazy feeling I have, that now I feel like if I was to die, that would be okay. But to feel like I did when I wanted to do it on my own time, that was not okay.
Right? How crazy is this? If I would have been successful in 2019 taking my life, I would have left my wife to handle our businesses through a pandemic.
Nuts, dude. And I think about that, like it's okay now if I died, but I don't want to now.
Right.
Now, now it's okay if I did.
If it happened now, my family will be fine and they'll thrive. Not just because of the life insurance, that has nothing to do with it. Because they're now set up and they're in a position to where no matter what, they're going to be taken care of forever, and they know dad loves them.
Yes, that's what I was just going to say, is that it's okay now because they know you now, and that's going to be their last memory, is you, Jason, like you, how you really are, not the struggle before or anything. It's going to be like, yeah, man, he was all good at the end. He figured it out. Everything's all cool. And now, they can type in our name on Google and this podcast is going to come up. And they're going to sit back.
It's a top trending podcast from 2022.
Our three boys can sit together and listen to this thing, dude. Around a campfire in Florida or wherever they're going to be, dude. And it's epic when we think about that. Dude, you've said a lot. You've dove in deep. You, I would imagine, connected with some people that can relate to you. You backed off a lot of social media, which I'm very jealous of, because I would love to do the same thing here at some point, and I will at some point. I got a few years before I hit 40, so I got a little bit catching up to do.
But you know what, man, I'm proud of you, because
I appreciate it, bro.
You've never been afraid to jump into anything, even if it was foreign to you.
Yeah.
People might not know it, but you have so many skill sets and so many things that you are just so good
Thank you
at.
very much, my friend.
I mean, between just being great and gifted with people, you're an incredible musician. You're an amazing
Hey,
father. You're a great businessman.
thank
You
you.
have so many multifaceted skill sets that it's
Mm,
impressive. But
mm,
I think the best thing about you is the way that you make other people feel good about themselves.
yeah.
That's the one thing that a lot of people just don't have,
It,
and that's the one thing, I've backed off a lot of social media, but I do have a TikTok account.
there it is.
And if
That's what,
anybody wants to check that out, it's Papa Smoke
yeah.
27128.
And guess what? You do whatever you want on that damn thing,
Man,
right?
I pretty much, I tell people the truth. I tell people what life
You
is
do.
like.
Well,
But
say the handle one more time because I cut you off.
Papa
Yep.
Papa Smoke
Yep.
27128.
All right.
And it's all inspirational, it's all motivational, it's all about life, it's all about kids,
And
it's all
fun.
about
And
family
fun.
and
You got
fun.
fun
Oh
on there.
yeah, man, it's all
I
fun.
know,
It's
dude.
all jokes.
So,
It's
dude,
not super serious.
I can play, but you sing like a song, like a songbird, And I get to hear you sing on there once in a while. And
We I do a little something every once in a while.
yeah.
I do a
I'm not
little
going to
something.
talk about what you used to do for money
Yeah,
back
let's
in the
not
day.
do all that. Let's not. Take a leg us all.
Dude,
Oh, yeah,
I honestly see everybody as equal. I really
yeah,
do. I don't care where they come from, the color of their skin, how much money they make or didn't make. I was friends with them before. I'll be friends with them
yeah,
after. I really just want to be your friend and let you know that I find you very interesting, and that not just you, but anybody that I'm talking to here. Um,
yeah.
and that that your story is special. Everybody's story is special, and I love to hear it, and I love to encourage people to enjoy their life because
Yeah.
I want to do the same thing.
Ain't none
Um,
of us are making her out of here
but
alive, man. You
no,
might
no,
as well
no.
enjoy
So let's
life.
talk about the irony real quick. I want to talk about the
Yeah,
irony because I said this and you were like, dude, of course,
yeah.
yes, of course, because you've thought about it as well, and we've never
Oh yeah,
talked
it's
about
beautiful.
this.
Yeah,
Right? We've never talked about it, but I said it and you were like, dude. So that what's the irony of grass is greener being the name of your business that you start and then you go through all this and on the other side the grass is
grass is
green.
green.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't realize the irony until you're on the other side of things.
Mhm.
And what seemed like a cool cliche, catchy name.
Yeah.
Because who won't remember a name like
How many
grass is
times was
green?
it spoken out?
Yeah,
How many times did we speak it out?
it's crazy. But to be on the other side of all of these storms and all of this sorrow and all of these tragedies, and then to see that no matter what, all these storms, all it's doing is water. And out of all this tragedy, out of all this sorrow, joy comes in the morning, and there's rebirth, and there's new, and there's
Yeah.
positivity. There's always life to
Yep.
be lived on the other side. And
Yep.
and if sometimes, and I equate it now to video games because that's what people are used to.
Yep.
Is you get to this level and you're facing this boss and you keep getting beat at this boss, but you got to be able to beat that one before you can get to the next level. Because if
Yeah.
you can't handle him,
Yep.
you ain't gonna be able to deal with the next level. And
No.
that's what life is.
Yeah,
Life
you get
prepares you for
excited
the
when you
next
get to the
level.
next level,
Yeah,
right?
but
And
you
then when you
gotta
get to
be
the end of it,
careful.
you're like, damn, I gotta beat this thing to get back
Yeah,
to the next
gotta beat
level.
it to get to the next level, man.
Yeah.
And if we treat life that way, to where everything is a test and everything is preparing us for what's to come next, and then that makes the failures a little easier. That
It
makes the
does.
tests a little easier because you realize it's just preparing me for what's to come next. And
Yeah.
then when you realize that there's no way God could have given me what He's given me now 10 years ago because I wasn't ready. He
No,
wouldn't have
absolutely.
given me
Yeah,
it to
you're
me
right.
3 years ago because I wasn't ready. I
Yeah.
had to be
It's
ready for
now.
this.
Yeah, it's
It's
now.
now.
One thing
It's now.
I'll say before I ask you for some advice for people is that I have come to find that when you lose people and things you love, not only to death, but you just lose them because you can't have them in your life anymore. It
Yeah.
makes who's left and what is left. It makes you
Way more
love it
important.
way
Oh,
more.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's not that I love less. It's just that the things that are less in my life, like the fewer things I have, I love exponentially as much. I've
Yeah.
never loved it. I've never loved my children as much as I do right now. Like
Right.
I just they amaze me every day. the fact that they're in my life every day, my friends I love more than ever, my business I love more than ever, this podcast, and my
Yeah.
life, like my
Right.
life is
Yes.
it's such a crazy story. We both have amazing stories of our lives,
Right.
right? And I love that aspect of it, and I love living it. I'm present in it finally, and I was
Yes.
never present in it before, and I recognize that it is an amazing thing, and I'm in the midst of it. I'm very blessed to be in it, and I'm very blessed to be in it with you, my good friend Jason. Jason, tell us one piece of advice real quick that you can give people, and it can be for anything. It can be some of the stuff we talked about, or just life, or whatever.
So I'm gonna go on a little rant. Yeah.
I
So
had a feeling it wasn't going to be short, but you
yeah,
go
it's not gonna be short.
ahead.
So, you just got to bear with me. Got to bear with me. So number one, don't take yourself so serious.
Yeah.
Don't take yourself so serious. All right. Um, there's a reason why the windshield is bigger than the rear view mirror, is because the most important things to come are in front of you,
Mm-hmm.
and what's behind you is behind you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you keep looking behind you, you'll never see what's coming.
Yeah.
And the
Beautiful.
biggest thing I think is to extend yourself and everyone around you some grace. And if you can learn to operate in the grace, and you can learn to stop trying to compare your life with other people's lives, and stop trying to tear down other people's successes because you feel like they should be yours and they're not warranted, and just be positive and be happy for people.
Yeah.
Celebrate other people's wins, because you know
Yeah.
what's going to happen if you celebrate other people's wins. Yours are going to come a little faster.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, so
Yes.
the one thing I would tell people is just to love abundantly, not because you're gaining anything from it, but just because loving is so much more freeing than hating.
Yeah. It
And
is.
it doesn't, and the biggest thing that I've learned in the last few years in 2020 is to stay away from the political theater, stay away from all the argumentating and all the, because none of it matters. The
No.
only thing that matters is just being good to people and enjoying your life, and and having the biggest positive impact you can have. All that stuff doesn't matter. None
Dude,
of it matters. You can't control any of it.
yeah, think about how excited I am for your success. Like that's how it should be, right? Like
Yes.
that's how it should be. I'm so excited to be able to witness it. I'm grateful to be able to witness it. And it's like that is a testament to what exists in this world if our heart and our minds are in the right place. And
Yes.
that every time I see it gets me excited. That's why I'm excited for my friends. I'm excited to help them promote whatever it is they want to do. I'm excited to talk to them at the end of the phone line. I'm always here, right? And
Yeah.
if it ever is bad, share that with me. I'll take some of that burden from you
Yep.
too. I'll take some of
Yep.
it on my shoulders. They're big. I'm fat.
Oh
They're
yeah.
big. Yeah. So
You know, and that you know what? That's another thing is that you can't expect people to understand what you're going through if they don't know what you're going through.
right,
Like people can't extend you grace if they don't know you need it.
right.
Like so always trying to be tough and keep everything in and trying to be quiet and hold stuff in all the time, you're actually doing yourself and others a disservice,
Yeah.
because you may be blocking somebody else's blessing because you're just not being honest.
Yeah. Yeah. It does. It hinders everything. It's, we could have a beautiful vanilla cake and be ready to bake that sucker. But if there's somebody threw some pickle juice in there, I'm good. I'll just go
Yeah.
ahead and stick with the salad, bro.
Hard pass.
Hard pass on that pickle vanilla cake. And you can't have that. You just can't. And everybody wants the sweetness of life, and it's that vanilla
Yeah.
cake. And it's hard to do that with bad ingredients, and you got to cut them out sometimes.
Yep.
And sometimes people smash the damn cake. That don't mean we can't bake another one, and sometimes the
That's
universe
right.
the universe will smash the cake, and
Yep.
we have all the tools to remake it again and enjoy
You
it.
know, the one thing I tell my nephews, and I got a bunch of young kids that I mentor, and I go and I talk to the high school here a lot. And the one thing I try to leave them with is that me and you, doesn't matter who it is, we have the same 6 months, same year,
Yep.
same 5 years.
Yep.
Every choice and every decision that you make from here until the next 5 years is going to shape how it goes.
Yep.
And it's on you to choose what you want to do. And if you just want to screw off for the next few years, well, guess what? You're not going to be any further or ahead in life.
No, maybe backwards.
You may be taking several steps back.
Yep.
But if you buckle down and you come up with a plan, you come up with a goal, and you stick to it and you grind it out, you'll be way more advanced in the next 5 years than what anybody else does. That all they just want to do is hang out and have a good time.
Nailed it. You're going to pass them. Yeah. And I think that
leaps and
bounds. Yep. You just keep your nose to the grindstone, make good choices, right? And be positive and celebrate with your friends. Like celebrate.
Oh yeah, you have to, man.
Celebrate your guys' victories.
Celebrate the wins, man. And
yes. I think not party, which is fun, and we do party, and it is fun.
Partying has a place and a time, man. Has a place and a time. It does, you know. And the one thing I tell these kids all the time is that if you show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Yeah. And if you're hanging around people that are doing the wrong things, whether you want to or not, it's only a matter of time before you're sucked into it.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. All right, man. I really, if I wish I could explain to you how much I appreciate you, but I think that your head would probably get big and you'd grow a lot of hair out and you'd have to buy a Jeep with the top off because your head would be so big. Oh, never mind. Dude.
Oh, wait.
You already do all that shit, bro. You have to move to a state where there's no clouds because your head would be in them. Oh, wait, you're going to do that too. Right. Jason, dude, I really, really appreciate this. And I know that there are some people that are really going to appreciate it too. And your story is amazing. I'm grateful to have you as a friend. I love y'all. I'm jealous of Deb, and I'm also jealous of you for having Deb. You guys are the two most amazing people that have found each other, I think, in my life. So I know it's not all supposed to be rainbows and unicorns. It's not, because that deep appreciation.
It wouldn't be real. It wouldn't be real. If it's like that, it's not real, man.
Yes, sir.
It's fake.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's fake. Yeah.
Well, I would wish you more success, and I think I will. I just want you to keep succeeding, because when I come see you in Florida, I wanted you to show me all the cool shit. And we definitely will. Please tell your wild man and tell the hype man I said hey, and then tell your beautiful wife I said hey too. Thank you very much once again, my friend, for sharing your story with us.
Yep.
For myself,
make sure you tell the wife and kids I said hi, man.
I will. I promise I will. For myself and Jason Thompson, this is episode 62 of Blacktop Banner, where we really didn't talk about blacktop. We talked about some hard stuff, which I guess go ahead. We'll say that qualifies for blacktop. But here we speak asphalt, and sometimes we speak other stuff too. But as always, we want you to seal it, pave it, stripe it, and kill it in this life. Please. Peace.
Peace.